Genetically modified crops has always been a topic of heated debate and discussion, especially in the Indian context. In October this year, the Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee, or the GEAC, gave approval for the environmental release of genetically modified mustard variety, the DMH11, the Dhara Mustard Hybrid 11, thus paving way for the commercialization of the crop. The committee further added that the commercialization of DMH11 is subject to the Seeds Act 1966 and related rules and regulations. A word about GEAC, the Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee. The Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee has been established under the Ministry of Environment, Forests and Climate Change and is the apex body established under Rules 1989 of the Environmental Protection Act 1986. And this GEAC is primarily concerned with giving approval related to those activities involving hazardous microorganisms and recombinants in research and industrial production from the environmental safety angle. The GEAC is also responsible for the release of genetically engineered organisms and products into the environment, including the experimental field trials. So how important is mustard for us? Mustard is one of the major winter crops in India, sown between mid-October and late November. The mustard is being cultivated by around 6 million farmers in around 6.5 to 7 million hectares of land, primarily in the states of Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh. As far as mustard oil is concerned, we are more than self-sufficient related to mustard oil production, as only 15% of the edible oil consumption comes from mustard. Moreover, there are more high-yielding and well-performing varieties of mustard which are not genetically modified. So, in this context, what is the need for genetically modified mustard? What is genetic modification? Genetic modification is a technology wherein DNA is inserted into the genome of an organism. The genetic makeup of all organisms is determined by its genome, which in all plants and animals is made up of DNA. To produce a GM crop, new DNA is inserted into the plant cells. Usually, these cells are grown in tissue culture where they develop into a new plant, and the seeds borne by these new plant will inherit the modified DNA. The characteristics of all living organisms, be it plants or animals, are determined by the genetic makeup and their interactions with the environment. The genome contains genes, the regions of DNA that carry instructions for making proteins, and it is these proteins that give the plants its characteristics. The genetically modified variety of mustard is likely to help beekeepers. Let's find out how. The genetically modified mustard, based on its relatively enhanced foraging behavior, is likely to produce more honey. Hence, beekeepers in these areas are likely to benefit from this. The new hybrid variety, DMH11, is fully fertile with pollen viability, similar to its parental line Varuna, with fully developed nectaries. Around 50 to 60% of honey produced in India is mustard honey. Hence, the new variety is very lucrative for honey beekeepers. The DMH11 variety is likely to produce 30% more yield than the existing varieties. Moreover, it has been made using the genetic male sterility or the GMS technique, which makes it herbicide resistant. Cultivation of GM crops has triggered a political debate across the country, with both pro and anti-GM activists raising their claims and counterclaims simultaneously. A major claim has been raised by honeybee cultivators. They have raised the argument that commercialization of GM hybrid is likely to hamper the honeybee industry severely. As I said earlier, the DMH variety is herbicide resistant. This has made it easy for the farmers to spray over the crops without harming the crops. This is an issue of serious concern because this herbicide resistant nature will encourage the farmers to spray intensely over these crops, and the weeds are likely to become super weeds in the future, which are resistant to these toxic chemicals. So what are some of the general concerns related to genetically modified crops? First and foremost, herbicide residue is a major concern. Another concern is that the genetically modified crops are likely to produce some kind of an allergic reaction. But it's generally observed that these allergic reactions can happen only when the genetic reaction triggers the production of an allergen. Moreover, the genetically modified crops are likely to be highly cancerous. So even this has been debated and disputed across the country. Many of the genetically modified crops have been found to be antibiotic resistant. So it's very likely that humans and animals who consume these products directly or indirectly are likely to develop antibiotic resistance in the long run. Moreover, many researchers prove that these genetically modified crops are likely to affect the liver, kidney, pancreas, and even the reproductive system severely. The genetically modified crops are likely to disturb the existence of small insects and other species. Moreover, it is likely to create a reduction in various other plant types, thus creating an imbalance in the biodiversity as a whole. Certain changes are inevitable, but every time we make a change with respect to the environment, with respect to the sustenance of human beings, it is to be ensured that these changes are sustainable.